live in an ever-connected world. With gadgets that keep us in the loop all day, all night, and in all places, our obsession knows no bounds. As a tech-savvy journalist, I'm going to go on a journey to explore what it is that compels us to want to always be connected.
What we know is that the use of the internet elevates dopamine just like gambling does, and just like cocaine does and other drugs.
I want to see how our addiction to handheld technology affects people from all walks of life.
The whole business of Facebook is emphasising the egocentric nature of people.
Man, you're always texting. Who are you talking to? Why can't you put it down?
And I'd been bleeding internally for like a week and hadn't realized it. So I was so busy, caught up on Twitter and Facebook and social media.
We don't know the effect of this technology on young children's brains. Maybe it's completely rewiring their brain.
We use it for most of the day, actually.
And I travel to the Golden State of California, the home of many technology companies, one of the most connected places on the planet. And it's where I will experience my own unusual digital detox.
My name's Phil Lavelle, and people tell me that I am an addict. I don't do drugs, I certainly don't have a drink problem, yet what I do seems pretty antisocial, excuse me. Hello?
I'm on my phone all day, every day, and my tablet is never really more than a few feet away. If I'm not speaking to people with my voice, then I'm talking on Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, and a seemingly endless list of new ways to be socially connected. I'll admit I am even guilty of posting pictures of my food. Most mornings I'm up at the crack of dawn, and the first thing I do is check what I've missed. The iPad comes out for me to catch up with friends in far-flung time zones where I will say good morning or good night depending on where they are. I'll catch up with the early morning headlines over breakfast, and then I'll plan my workout and my day's meals using various apps. After that, it's a pretty seamless transition. The phone comes out ready for the commute into the city. Quite frankly, I would be lost without it. As a journalist, I think that I can justify this. You see, I constantly need connection, and being up to date with the latest facts and figures is essential when you're trying to deliver the news.
The general election, that was always going to be the case.
But when work is over, the truth is, I just can't seem to stop. It annoys my friends. They feel I'm never really there with them. I am constantly connected, yet at the same time, I am disconnected.
So these are my friends who have come to explain to you about why they feel that I spend far too much time playing with things like these, and I should be interacting with them. Although I'm sitting on the edge here, and no one's talking to me.
You're always on your phone.
I wasn't on my phone. That's probably the first time I was not on my phone.
He is a nightmare. He very rarely interacts with us. He's always on his phone. I'd say it's an addiction. I'd say it's a habit.
All of his friends and family tell him, but I think he keeps doing it. It's a need to constantly know what's happening via this little piece of plastic.
I feel like he excludes himself, but we want to, enjoy his company and hear what he has to say and have a drink with him and catch up and see what's going on and all just be involved in a conversation together.
Yeah, and I'm just as bad, I have to say. I'm bad. We'll sit there and watch a film or TV, and I'll do it. I'll check it, and it's like, why am I doing this? Or before I go to bed, I look at Facebook, and it's become like a part of the day.
I'm forever frustrated. We will be driving somewhere spectacularly beautiful, and the countryside is amazing, and he's looking at his phone. For me, the focus is wrong, but it doesn't matter how many times I tell him. I think, it's a kind of a mild addiction.
So what makes you think I need to look at my phone now as opposed to engrossed in the movie?
A very, very modern reference is FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out, which is what everybody has.
It's like, can you not be offline for 2 hours without that issue?
I mean, I've not been, when we've been filming this, I've not touched my phone.
We've been filming this.
Yeah, but, if I was a cigarette addict, I'd have probably had a couple of cigarettes by now, or an alcoholic, I'd have had a drink as you were talking.
So you're saying you are an addict then?
So if we take your phone off
No, because if you take your phone off, if you take my phone off me, then I do start to get slightly anxious. Yeah. They've said all of this before. Perhaps not in such a concentrated group, because they're all deliberately making a point now. But yeah, I mean, I can see what they're saying, but at the same time, I'm the first person that any of these will come to when they can't get anything working on their phones, or I'll be the one that will share photographs. So I don't know if it is a problem, but I'm not sure. I'm not convinced.
And it seems I am not the only one who is not convinced. Just look around you, you can't miss it. People cannot put their devices away for very long. Our time is so precious, we want to spend as much of it as we can making digital contributions. The thing is, we're not even ashamed of it. Even art is aware. This latest picture from the artist Banksy shows just how much this is now a social issue. A couple's loving embrace interrupted by the desire to see what others are doing. The increase in the use of handheld technology is the most rapid in the history of humankind.
People are taking to these increasingly, aren't they? I mean, just talk us through the way people have adopted digital devices over the years.
Okay, so 10 years ago, social media didn't really exist at all. And now we're at the stage where 350 million messages are being shared each day on Facebook. We've got about 400 million photos being shared. And 8 years worth of video is created on YouTube every single day. And really, social media has become part of the fabric of our everyday life. It's interwoven in everything that we do. Whether we like it or not, it is part of our lives and it's there to stay. And if anything, we're going to see the rate of growth increase dramatically over the next few years.
So where do you see it going then? If you say it's going to be increasing dramatically, how dramatically?
We're creating more data, more information than ever. 90% of all of the data that has been created by mankind has actually been created in the last 2 years, and that's going to grow exponentially. We expect in the next 2 years, 4 times the data that has ever been created will be created, and that's made up of largely consumer data.
That's a lot of selfies.
It is an awful lot of selfies. And the thing is that that's being stored for life, and consumers don't understand that photos, selfies that they take today are there forever.
Is it worrying when you look at, for example, this week we saw the announcement that of this new watch, people are going to be tracked more and more, and these organisations don't just sell these devices as something that will make phone calls or something that you can check Facebook or Twitter on. They're marketed as everything. You can take photographs, you can control things. Is that deliberate to draw people in?
What these companies are doing is they're responding by and large to consumer needs and consumer demands.
Well, I don't know, because you could say that they're creating them as well. I think it was Steve Jobs that once said, the customer doesn't know what they want until they're shown it.
Now, what customers don't know is they don't know the device they want, but they know the benefits that they want.
Right.
So if you ask people and they say, what would you like? They're not very good at explaining the technology or even the social networks they want, but they know the benefits. And so what organisations tend to do is create the hardware or the software which meets these needs. And some of those needs are about self-presentation, about looking good, about expressing to other people the great things in life that you do. And particularly that's part of digital addiction, that people want to make themselves look really positive to their friends, want to show off their lifestyles. And so owning the right kind of device at the right time is really important to you. And it gives you a social currency. And devices that enable them to do that seem to be very successful.
The global adoption of handheld technology is being aided and abetted by the seductive lines of the latest sleek designs. Global giants like Apple are synonymous with the almost religious fervour that surrounds the launch of their products. Each event seems to feed an expected following of addicted devotees. I arranged to speak to one of Apple's former in-store tech support employees, a member of the so-called Genius Bar. Day after day, he had to deal with the anxiety of customers waiting for the repair of their faulty device. Previously critical of Apple, he's asked us to keep his identity a secret.
Were there ever signs of violence or real, extremes like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is not much secret made about the loss prevention teams who are ex-police force, ex-SWAT teams who patrol, partially because...
Well, you have ex-SWAT teams in the stores?
In certain stores, sure.
Why?
Partially because there is such a high amount of expensive stock. There's several $1 million in the back of the store, so that warrants a certain amount of protection. But a certain amount of that physical protection for the employees also has to do with the fact that people grow very angry when they feel frustrated or when they feel confused or when they feel stressed. And that happens a lot with technology. That happens a lot when your technology doesn't work.
Do you personally, do you feel these products can be addictive?
Absolutely. I'm happily addicted to my own device. I feel that most of the people who work with me would say the same. There's not too much reason not to be. To be attached to your device in ways sort of to feel as though you're just more attached to the world.
The incredible rate at which this digital revolution has hit means that potentially we are now living in a digitally divided society. There are adults who can remember a so-called simpler time, an age when there was no internet, there were no connected handheld devices. And there are those who are approaching adulthood that know of nothing else. They are having to develop new subtle patterns of online etiquette and behaviour, a challenge never faced by any generation before.
Do you ever, if you have a crush on somebody, stalk them on Facebook?
Yes. You do? So you said that without even thinking about it?
Yeah, I do.
I would do it.
Number one
There's, it's not exactly Facebook, but there's other things you can do. There's Instagram for one, where it's you see the photos, and to look like a stalker you actually have to go down and every single photo. I wouldn't do that as such. I'd scroll through them and have a look what they were doing and stuff, but I wouldn't creep them out in a way that you like every single photo.
You've got to be careful on Instagram, because when you scroll down, you can accidentally if your phone freezes you, you double tap it, and you're accidentally liking photos from 83 weeks ago, and it's just
Now that looks weird when somebody does that.
Just busted.
You've never met as well.
It's then people know you've been on their profile, they know that you're looking at old stuff, and you panic a bit.
If you see them the next day, it's alright.
So is there is it like a dating game? Is there a whole strategy?
There's ways that when people talk to each other, if you reply within a certain amount of time, you start to get the wrong idea of things.
The problem I have with texting is you can't always read what they're trying to say, because you can't hear their voice, you can't see them nodding. I always find myself, when I'm texting, I'm going, aha, and I'm as if it was a conversation, and I find myself thinking, well, how do I say that in text?
Sarcasm is hard to put across when you're texting, because if you say something quite mean but sarcastically, some really serious people just take it so seriously.
What makes a good selfie?
Getting the right facial expression is good, because you don't just want to present yourself as all happy and smiley, because that turns people off. The trend nowadays for male selfies is you have to squint.
Yeah.
You squint and then you furrow your eyebrows, and then you tense your forehead.
No, yeah, it's true. A lot of boys do stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
The selfie thing.
I'm pretty guilty of that too, so like, yeah, don't worry about it.
I can second that.
Don't worry.
Adults and older members of the community seem to fall into two groups. You've got the heavy users of technology for work and play, and those who are even opposed, citing this as the start of the end of society. But all of the people I spoke to are users of some sort.
When you put something on Facebook and you get somebody clicks like and it pops up and says Phil likes your status, how does that make you feel?
Well, when I first started using Facebook, that was quite cool. It kind of made me feel quite good, but actually I've seen through it now. My ego is okay and I don't need it.
Is that what it's about? Do you think it's about ego?
There's an element of that. You know, when I put stuff up there and or you put a photo up and people put comments and you think, oh yeah, that's really nice. And you go, I remember going back and looking to see if anyone's liked it or not. But I can't be doing with it anymore. I've had enough.
I just think that the whole business of Facebook is emphasising the egocentric nature of people, a sort of breathtaking arrogance in people who seem to think that other people want to know minutiae about their lives. I just find that's off key completely. I wouldn't want to be sharing that.
You don't want to know what we've had for our lunch?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm interested in what I'm having for lunch, but I couldn't care less what you have for lunch.
I wouldn't say I was addicted. I think perhaps a lot of people use the term addicted and they actually mean perhaps it's more a compulsion to keep wanting to have a look at Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But I don't like the feeling when you go on holiday and you haven't got a very good signal. That spoils my holiday.
But the whole point of going camping is to get away from it all.
Oh yeah, you get away from certain things, but I don't like getting away from feeling connected. If the signal bar drops down too low or there's no 3G, that's a holiday ruiner for me.
Well, no 3Gs, you might as well have no internet these days.
Yeah.
If you've got no 3G.
I must be addicted because I have a mobile phone, I carry a laptop around with me. I just so I'm not left behind. It's a great tool for following your family when you're not close. It's like Skype and so on. All these things are terrific tools if they're used properly.
I get physically excited and stuff makes me smile if I see a bit of technology and I think, wow, that is going to either save me time, it's going to be useful. If I didn't look at didn't check email for a week, I'd have 500 emails, and a lot of them would need actioning. I'm ruthless as it is. I mean, don't answer something. I just haven't got time to manage to reply to people.
It does unnerve me slightly listening to you. I kind of feel like you just need someone to tell you don't have to do all that. I think I'm going to fly the flag for just irresponsible joy that's not attached to the demands of other people, either through work or just because everybody is out there and accessible.
I'm starting to think that my use of technology isn't really that bad. It's certainly not any more or any less than lots of the people who I've spoken to, so surely we can't all be addicted. Or can we? I check in at a clinic in Connecticut with Dr. David Greenfield, a professor of psychiatry and a man who claims to be able to cure people of their digital addictions.
Could I be classed as an addict, or am I just self-diagnosing?
Well, I don't know if you're an addict. I mean, the question is, do you feel uncomfortable if you don't have your fix of technology or have your phone with you all the time? So you probably fall into a category of at least abusing it and somebody that might look at their level of use. We're going to help you begin to desensitize your use of digital technology or the internet. And the way we do that is using a device that uses a technique called EMDR. EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to imagine on a scale of 0 to 10 what it would feel like to not have your phone with you for a period of time. Your eyes are going to follow the lights as they move back and forth, and there's going to be an audio signal that will also move back and forth What this does is desynchronizes the hemispheres of the brain, and what I've seen when I've used it is that it can actually lower the experience of discomfort or craving for something in somebody's life through this natural physiological response. And what we know is that the use of the internet, and particularly certain content on the internet, elevates dopamine just like gambling does, and just like cocaine does and other drugs. What the internet is it's the world's largest slot machine. Every time you go on it, whether it's to search for a piece of information, check an email, a Facebook update, a text, it doesn't really matter. The fact that it's unpredictable in terms of what and when is what contributes to the addictive nature of the internet, because that variable ratio reinforcement schedule is the way a slot machine operates. That's why people stand in front of a slot machine all day long, pushing that button, hoping that they're going to win something, because every once in a while they do. What that means is that you have to not get what you want on one of these devices for a long, long time before you'll put it down and not pay attention to it anymore.
Having had the therapy, I've got to say it didn't really relieve my desire to be connected, but his theories do seem logical, and they've set me thinking about where all of this started. The reality is that our addiction to gadgets emerged from our use of new technology developed here, Tech Central, also known as Silicon Valley. You only have to drive around to see who the big residents are in this neighborhood. The home of startups and global brands like Apple, eBay, and Google, this place has a reputation for turning small ideas into life-changing obsessions. In 2013, social networking giant Facebook was the name on everybody's computer, tablet and phone, with a stock market flotation that created the world's youngest billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg. Originally working with Mark in the early days, his sister Randy. She's subsequently left and written about tech addiction, and the message from her is clear: do not get hooked.
Is there almost like a collective responsibility for this place to say to the world, you know, you need to just watch out here?
After I left Facebook, I spent a year about traveling the world and just talking to people and saying, you know, is technology a net positive in your life? If you feel like it's not, why isn't it? And I think people in Silicon Valley, it's easy when you're here to get caught up in that world of, you know, what are we disrupting today? Yeah. What are we innovating? Let's go, let's go. But when you pick your head up and you talk to people, people are scared of technology and all this rapid change. They're overwhelmed by the change that it's bringing to their families, to their work, to their love lives, to everything. We're walking this really fine line, I think, all the time with tech, because it's creating, all this innovation is creating so much opportunity, but with any new innovation, there are all these complications that come after the fact, sometimes long after the fact, that we don't know. For example, we don't know the effect of this technology on young children's brains. Maybe it's completely rewiring their brain in a new way that's going to render our current education systems just completely moot. I think as a society, we're getting a lot more conscious around what wellness means, and it certainly doesn't mean being glued to a device 24 hours a day.
Worrying words from someone who once advocated being always on and being always socially connected. And the irony is that just up the road from Silicon Valley is somewhere trying to help those who just can't switch off. Tomorrow, I will enter a digital detox program called Camp Grounded. I'm going in as a journalist, but I'm going to be as undercover as I can. Once we've handed over all our technology, we are in there for 4 days. We can't use our real names, there is no talk of work allowed, and the outside world might as well not exist. The question is, can something like this really end our obsession with technology? My Camp Grounded experience starts as soon as I join my fellow campers on the morning bus ride there.
Real quick, we gotta sing a song. So, anybody have a suggestion of a song that we should sing right now that maybe something everyone knows?
It is a no-holds-barred American experience with games, silly songs, and the final opportunity to get our last internet hit.
Meow, meow, meow. We can take it now back. Campground it. All right.
So we are on the bus to Camp Rounded. I am not the only one without my phone. People here have been playing with them, but I put my phone away and I'm looking forward to having 3 days without my phone.
Quite honestly, I am a shy Brit who is way out of his depth. I may be smiling on the outside, but inside, I'm filled with dread about what the next few days have in store.
It's a bit of a weird experience. It's like the first day at school.
Come on back for milk and cookies and face painting.
I found it a little bit lonely at first. I mean, we've only been here a few hours, and I was thinking, in the real world, what I would probably do is I'd put my phone in my pocket. You know, I'd just fiddle as a kind of way of not feeling like, you know, I'm sort of the outsider here. But I can't do that, and it's that kind of situation where you have to make an effort. You have to talk to people. You know, if you're shy, which I am in some circumstances, then it's kind of weird having to do that. But that's what the whole experience is about.
Camp rules are really clear. They state that we must lock away all of our devices for the entire duration of our stay. We will see them again, of course, but at the end, and I've got to say it feels really odd handing in one of my most treasured possessions. But once that's done, we are quickly divided into our individual camps, named after animals, so squirrels, badgers and so on. I am in the bear camp, and our mascot is a saggy pink bear, joined by our jealously guarded camp flag.
There's only like 6 or 7 people in our village. We've got quite a small village. We're called the Bears. We've even got like a whole sign, which we're probably going to do later in front of everybody, which would be really weird. I started off with meditation, which I went into quite closed-mindedly. And then there was some weird bonding games, you know, and there's all these people sort of shouting things, and I was sort of being really quiet in the corner, sort of quiet little Brit, like, where am I? Who are all these people? Why am I here? This is totally bonkers. And it was a real effort to join in and to not kind of just sort of look at it like I was an outsider, thinking, you know, what is going on here? Tonight is going to be a bit odd because we've got this whole welcome thing, and there's like an amphitheatre which then we're going to, and there's a band, and we all have to do our kind of group dance, and it's all really crazy, and I'm going to find it quite difficult to join in without thinking, you know, what am I doing here?
For showing up. It would be really weird if we did this and none of you guys came. And so we're going to get into a big, big weekend of play and dance and vulnerability and sharing and crying and creating and making and reflecting and sitting in trees and sitting in yurts and in teepees with people that are named Silly Goose and Banana Breath. And we're going to have surreal moments that later on we're like, did that really happen? I'm like, hell yeah, it did.
The mastermind behind all of this is the charismatic Levi, better known here by his camp name, Fidget.
So I was working in Los Angeles. I was a vice president of a tech company. I was 24 years old. And building technologies that help nonprofits get the word out and raise money. So great job, fantastic environment, working 60, 80 hours a week. I had an iPhone, had a BlackBerry, had multiple laptops, slept with my phone underneath my bed, you know, living the kind of Silicon Valley tech dream in Los Angeles. Until one day I felt really sick. So I stopped at the hospital and tested my blood and found that I was actually down to about 36% of my blood left. And they found a small laceration in my esophagus, and I'd been bleeding internally for like a week and hadn't realized it. So I was so busy, caught up on Twitter and Facebook and social media and building technologies that help change the world that I was so disconnected from my own reality.
And so we have a deep privilege here that we've come to unplug and get away and be kids again and play. And it's amazing.
So, after taking a 2-year retreat in Southeast Asia, he came back to the US, now knowing what to do.
I ended up in San Francisco, and I got on a street corner, and I got on a bus, and everyone on the bus was like this. And I just left, you know, Southeast Asia, where I was on buses with no one who spoke my language, but connecting with everyone. And now I'm back in San Francisco, my home, and I can't have a conversation with anybody because everyone's faced into their computers. So a few months later, we realized everyone was always on. Everyone was at the level that I had been on a few years before, having followers and always connected to their devices and worried about their own personal brands instead of their own personal families. And so my girlfriend, my partner, and I decided, let's take people on retreats. And so that's when we launched Camp Grounded, a summer camp for adults.
I'm undercover in the camp to try to have an authentic experience, but that makes it difficult to come and tell you just how I'm really feeling. I find a moment during the campfire to sneak out and speak.
We just had another big session. We had lots of campfires, we had lots of singing. We sang the Camp Grounded theme song, which was all about Facebook and turning your MacBook Pro off and your iPhone running out of battery. It was a really kind of weird experience. I didn't warm to it at all. I felt quite excluded at that point, and that was when I wanted to, you know, just kind of immerse myself in my own little world. You know, quite happily I would have pulled out my phone and just sat there and played with it. In the end, I think I just sat there and sort of fiddled with my nails instead and tried to look like I was really enjoying it. Maybe by the end of day 3, I'll be feeling a lot different. Tempo does change a lot throughout the day. It's probably been put together very scientifically. You know, there's probably some kind of psychology involved. I'm sure there is. Take this morning, for example, we were woken at first light. I assume, since time is banned here, the only time is now. That's what you're told if you ask what the time is. I assume it was about 5:30.
Sunrise. I feel so underdressed, the fact that I'm actually just going in the pyjamas I'm
And we got up, found some coffee, and then there was yoga, which was very nice and peaceful, and it was first light and the sun was coming through the trees and it was very pretty. And then we went back to our villages, and we all had breakfast together. You know, and it's kind of all eggs and granola, natural stuff. And then we had a bonding thing where we kind of just created a den. You know, it was like being 6 years old again. There was an old tarpaulin, there was an old sheet.
This was the bear den. Quiet reflection time. Very high tech. And look, bears are welcome. And then when you go in, they're hibernating.
But then counter that to lunchtime today.
Awesome. I'm
going full analog, so bear with me.
Sitting there, and then all of a sudden, after we'd eaten, they decided that we were all going to sing songs. But of course, you know, this is very important. We had to replace every single lyric with the word meow. So, you know, it sounded surreal. For me, it was a real contrast to last night. You know, last night everyone was skipping around the room. I was thinking, what the hell is going on here? Where am I? Who are these people? What am I doing here? Whereas today, it was like we just all dived in, you know, and we had good fun. So there's like a real tempo change. And it's quite emotionally draining, but it's also, you know, it feels very rewarding, or it does so far.
At the camp, we're provided with lots of creative activities, presumably to keep us distracted from our devices and maybe to fill the void left over by handing in our phones. To remind us how reliant we've become on technology, there are the analogue equivalents. We now have to use a human-powered search engine. There's a wooden inbox, a disposable camera, and of course, we have to use a typewriter if we actually want to write anything.
I decided that I was going to write a diary, or a journal, as they call them here. And there's an area just over that way, which is called the typewriter range, which is a converted shooting range, and there's just a bank of 8 or 10 typewriters.
All modern technology here, isn't it? If you were to walk past this in an office back home, you'd say, oh, you wouldn't even notice it, but it's actually a really beautiful piece of machinery. You know, I mean, it's slightly frustrating because every time you slightly catch another letter, 2 of them pop up together and they get stuck and you have to stop and you have to pull them back and get ink all over your fingers. It makes you pause for a second or two, and it breaks the concentration, and then you find yourself drifting off looking at things which you wouldn't do if you were sitting here with a laptop, because you would just be completely face down focused. But still, we all find ourselves, and I know I'm not alone in this, pulling our phones out of our pockets and just checking them anyway when there can be nothing there, but we do it, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's some kind of hope that somebody's tried to get in contact with us. People have been talking about this phantom vibration thing, where they are imagining their phones are in their pockets vibrating, which sounded kind of weird and a bit far-fetched. But it happened to me 3 times yesterday. I had my disposable camera in my pocket. You know, there was no power in that at all. It's completely mechanical. And I actually did feel vibrations in my pocket. And I reached in then and realised, and I thought, what are you doing? There's nothing in there apart from a camera. But it wasn't a mental thing. I actually felt it. So, don't know. Did disposable cameras vibrate? Probably not. Maybe I'm just going crazy. But you know, if this is what going crazy feels like, then I'm quite happy to go crazy because it's really nice here.
People are at Camp Grounded to escape. Being interviewed for television is definitely not on their agenda, but 2 of my camp buddies, FABRIZIO and Lego, have agreed to appear on camera.
Were you finding that you were starting to feel it was a problem? Was it a real issue?
Part of it is like I didn't allow myself being in the moments. You know, I'm actually not on Facebook anymore. I used to be, and I got off probably about 3 some odd years ago. And part of it was I found myself always finding a moment to share and realizing I actually didn't enjoy the moment. It was more about, I got these trees. How can I share this moment with other people, as opposed to me just enjoying the tree, enjoying the scenery. And so I found that to be a problem. I found myself never really being in the moment, always trying to have other people be in it with me, even though they were never there. You know, we'd be at the dinner table. I might go to lunch with 3 or 4 coworkers, and you know, one would say, "Man, you're always texting. Who are you talking to? Why can't you put it down?" And at first I'd get upset. You know, it's like, geez, let me do what I need to do. But then I started realizing that when I started seeing other people do it, I understood why it was so bothersome, you know, because it was like, what is it that's so important out there that I took the time to sit down with you that you have to do something else? And I realized that that's what I was doing. It's like, why can't I take just half an hour with this person?
Yeah. Fabrizio's story reminds me of the life I'm trying to leave behind. As thoughts of departing in a day or so come to mind, Lego and I consider what awaits us in our new detoxified lives.
So you and I both leave, right? We go have another conversation with our friends, and we're both really trying to engage, and they're checking their phone the whole time. What are you going to say?
Oh, it's going to be so annoying.
Right, I'm trying to think about like that, like what's that going to be like? Am I going to say something? I'm going to be like, can you put that away for a little bit? Can we have half an hour? Like, how am I going to deal with that? Because, you know, I think about that. If I'm going to put energy right into this conversation and connecting with you and the right eye contact, how long have we been looking at each other right now?
About half an hour.
Right, with limited or no distraction.
Yeah.
Right. When does that ever happen outside of here? Right, because someone will break it, right, and probably because of a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, you know, because my mum died last year. She died last May, and
so sorry.
I'd never, thank you. I'd never thought about it until you just mentioned it then. But she was ill for a long time, and she was in a specially made bed, which was once our dining room and then became her bedroom. And I'd sit there when I'd go home to see her, and she'd be talking to me, and I'd be on my phone. You know, and I can't take that back now. That was, you know, she was trying to engage me in conversation, and I was just, you know, tweeting away, tweeting to some people who I don't even remember who they were.
Yeah.
I know now.
Yeah.
So, but what can you do?
Yeah.
It's happened.
The quiet seclusion of the forest is giving me the time and the space I need for reflection. And before our evening meal, all of us are being encouraged to go back to our villages, get changed into white clothing, and take time to pause, to reflect, and to prepare.
We got dressed in white because it was the summer solstice. It was the longest day of the year, so there was going to be a summer solstice dinner. And we were each handed just a very small brown envelope. The envelope had inside it just a small piece of paper talking about how fears are things that hold you back. And then there was a small pencil in there, and it said, you know, we want you to write the one fear that you have, or the one thing that you feel holds you back, fear or regret, because we are going to burn it tonight. The big bell rang, and everybody, like zombies, just turned around in their tracks, started walking towards the main area, to this kind of gently moving queue, which was leading towards a big bonfire that had been set up. People were going in there, and they were throwing in their final thoughts, their regrets, their fears, their things that they were told that they should get rid of. We had a silent dinner. A long table, single file table had been set outside. It was absolutely beautiful, actually. There was some music going on, there was a bit of chanting, but everybody was asked to eat their food in silence. And we were told, you know, the reason for this is you'll appreciate it more. And it sounds a bit crazy, and you might be watching this thinking, what is he on about? But it did actually work, you know. I unfolded my napkin, and I sort of watched it as it unfolded and thought, you know, I would not normally do this. And sort of was looking at the patterns on it, and then it came to eating the food. And, you know, I always eat really, really quickly. I'm always getting told off for eating really quickly, but I ate it really slowly. And I was thinking, I really enjoy the taste here. You know, this is a really nice meal, actually. I didn't know how to judge it for some of the time. Some of the time it felt a little bit cultish, you know, like this was some kind of weird religious cult. If you've ever seen the 70s movie The Wicker Man, it felt like that, you know, all these kind of weird people just walking around, and then there's this kind of big bell being rung, and there's people throwing things on a bonfire and no one's talking. You know, I was thinking, is this some kind of seance? Is something going to happen? You know, is it going to be some kind of genie that pops up any minute? But I thought about that thing that I put in, that regret, and it was like it wasn't there. And I know that sounds really silly, and you know, you might watch this and think, he's gone crazy, he's become assimilated, you know, he's been infected by this group mentality, this cult thing. But you know, of course I know what it was, and it's something that I have always regretted, but I don't regret it anymore because it's gone now, it's done, and it's past, and it's, you know, I feel like it's left me.
I think it's really amazing that a bunch of strangers can get weird and feel normal about it.
You know, this kind of whole weekend has gone so slowly. Like it just feels like it's lasted forever, and there's been this kind of clock ticking towards the last day, and I think people were, you know, sort of dreading the end of it because everybody has had just the most amazing, awesome time. This has been just a completely incredible experience, one of the most incredible experiences of my entire life, this place. You know, and I don't say that lightly because when I arrived here, I hated it. I absolutely hated it for the first, you know, few hours. And I was kind of thinking, you know, I kind of feel changed. It's weird. I don't know, I feel like I don't want to have this thing that is there all the time anymore. This device that kind of ruled my life and in so many ways diverted me towards insignificant things that don't really matter. I feel so much more optimistic. I feel like a very different person.
Two months have passed, and now I am back in London. Camp Grounded seems a world away, a lifetime ago. I had every good intention of starting over, but it began with a text, then an email. I didn't have a choice. I have a job that requires me to be connected. Now, maybe that looks like an excuse. That's what addicts do, right? They try to validate their behaviour, but there is some truth in it. There's always some truth in it. It's hard to give up something you like doing, and for me, that is being connected and not wanting to miss out on things again. I am back to where I started. I'm as addicted as I ever was.
Maybe my friends were right. You know, somebody once told me that for an addict to really recover, they have to state their name and they have to state their affliction. So maybe I should try that. My name's Phil Lavelle, and I am an addict.